is Andrey. He's a postdoc working with Professor David Prober at Caltech, and he's going to talk about CAD helps build and share design of experimental setups. Okay, so yeah, Andrey, why not you just take the stage?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I hope you can hear me well. I will talk a little bit about some different type of design, and namely how we build hardware and how we build experimental setups that will then run wonderful behavioral protocols on animals and stuff like that. The slides are available if you want to download them, and feel free to email me with any questions afterwards. And I just want to put a disclaimer that I'm not affiliated with any companies that I'm going to be mentioning. It's all on my own volition. First of all, hi everybody, my name is Andrey and I build and modify custom microscopes primarily for zebrafish brain imaging. Here you can see a cartoon of 2-photon light sheet microscopes that we're building. This is not a real image of the fish, that's a model. And this is the type of data we get from this, the whole brain imaging of zebrafish brain. This is a little zebrafish, that's its brain, and each dot here is a single neuron. So this is sort of the work that we're doing. And because we're working with the custom microscopes, we do often or always start with some sort of design, and we always design. We either take a piece of paper and start to scribble something down, or we use whiteboards to write it down, or even in PowerPoint. The problem is that it's often imprecise and it's always hard to communicate and edit as well. It's useful, and just like in software, right? Code comments are better than no code comments, and the same with the design. Any design, even if you just use a painter's tape and mark down things on the table, is better than not having design. But there's a better way to do these things, and I would like to promote today CAD or computer-assisted design workflow that we've been using, and it's been fairly productive for us. And it's fairly straightforward. We download a lot of parts that we actually bind from the companies that are used to build the microscopes, and we download the files, the model files from the companies. These companies, by the way, are using the same files to produce and manufacture these parts, so we can be sure that they're true. And then we get all these parts, we start to assemble them by using simple something called joints, and I'll go to that a little bit later. And we kind of just assemble things together just as we would do in the real world. But we do it on computer from the comfort of our home, which is pretty relevant recently, especially. And by this process, we can actually check for some conflicts. We can enter some numbers and distances that we know to be sure, and adjust other things. And also, we can importantly design some necessary parts that are custom that we can buy in the same space of the existing parts that we buy off the shelf. And after we're done with the process and everything seems to be reasonably well adjusted, we can generate renderings for our papers. We can also generate automatically a list of parts that are used in this design and then put it in the paper. And also, of course, make some technical drawings, which is very useful. Here is a skeleton, so it's not full design of a 2-photon point scanning microscope, sketched in about 10 minutes in Autodesk Fusion 360, which is my choice of software. There is, of course, a question of why this kind of process is not more widely used. And I just want to outline here a couple of issues. Mainly, of course, it's historically been perceived that software is very hard to use. In our own experience, it turns out that actually modern software is very easy to pick up. It takes just a few weeks or maybe even a couple of months to really start apply it into your practice. And more importantly, I would argue that from the day one, or from very simple pipelines that you develop, you add value to the process. You don't need to have 100% mastery of the software today to really add value to your work. We can talk about other issues that people bring up, but mainly I would like to focus on the end of this list. A lot of people don't do hardware, and I would argue to talk to your collaborators and your colleagues who do use and build hardware, and urge them to introduce more CAD design in their work. It will save them time. It will make the quality of work, I would argue, better. And also it will make your shared papers a little bit more valuable to the reader, because now they can download these files and assemble the setups and modify them for themselves. To conclude, and we open to the questions, I guess, and discussion, we would argue that the simple modeling is very useful, and it's can be started with a real sample. We can start with actual things that we want to image and build the microscope around it and the setup so that everything fits. Also, CAD is very useful for teaching and just communicating our designs. show them, don't tell them, right? This is a design made out of real parts, and it's much easier to actually talk with students, but also with collaborators. And important in our practice is that in the same ecosystem, we can actually start combining different things together and create custom adapters or things that we want to create customly in the same package of software, which really integrates all the hardware together. There's a couple of potential points of discussions. Again, the slides are available. Please email me. I can talk a little bit more about the actual process of assembly and how we do renderings and animations using the same single piece of software, and also how we can design some custom parts. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Andrey, for the introduction of CAD tools for the experimental design in neuroscience. This is an interaction for the new attendees to this session. This is an interactive talk session. So so questions are definitely welcome. No stupid questions. Just ask whatever we want. That's what I'm told to say. Okay. So there's a Q&A question from the audience. Hi, Andrey. Great talk. Wonder if you know any standard to version control CAD designs. For instance, in software, the changelog major MAJOR dot minor dot path is commonly used, but maybe you know some for CAD.
Great question. So I'll bring back to this issue that it's hard to share files and CAD designs, and mainly because there's so many different file formats and they all not really standardized. So the answer is there's no standard way to do it. In Fusion 360 that I'm using, you can really roll backwards every step of every step of the design. So I think some of the software programs do provide these tools with very high precision, and I was very happy with Autodesk approach to that. I cannot talk about other things. For example, the CAD software that allows you to program with code, right? Like basically just write Python code to design your part. There you can use the kind of default software version tracking.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we've used mitigations in the past, but I thought the direction we've been going in is
other questions?
Sorry, I hear someone's talking. I thought it's from is that from Palm?
It's probably my spouse.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks. Okay, there's no more question from the audience right now, but I'm curious to learn about one of the points you listed about design the custom parts and adapters. So like, yeah, I mean, I guess most of the components or parts in the software should be very fair standard ones, right? What people, they have their own designed experimental parts. They want it like, yeah. How would people do that?
Great point. So one of the things that we see in practice a lot, and unfortunately, it's probably going to go forever, is that sometimes we buy parts or have to procure parts with not matching threads and holes. European companies sell you metric holes, metric threaded, and parts and stuff like that. In the US, everything is called imperial, which means it's measured in inches. They never match. You get this stuff. It's a nightmare to assemble that together, and that's where this is an example of creating a small adapter plate. We load these parts from McMaster-Carr, it's a company that sells it, and Thor Labs, right? So we want to attach this post here to this carriage. The threads don't match. There's no way you can buy this off the shelf. So we design the same, we load these parts and we design this little adapter plate based on the design of this parts that we actually have loaded in the design. So they're going to be matched by design. And that kind of solves the problem of mismatching things. And it takes really about 10 minutes or so. The interesting background here is after we actually created this model, we animated it, we looked at it, and it turns out it's not going to work out for us because like we can just really assemble it. It looks great, but this is a value also of design that we actually can see your own mistakes that we made here, for example, before you manufactured anything or 3D printed. And also another thing that I wanted to mention is that, again, the value is being added iteratively. We can model to very small detail of like bolts and stuff like that, but we don't have to just by creating the parts and assembling things. Roughly, it's already useful for the engineers and for everybody else.
I see. Okay, thanks. Yeah, we still have some time and we don't have questions right now. Maybe we can go back to the summarizing slide. And oh, Oh,
I was going to ask a question. Sorry, I did the
yeah.
Q&A. You can't put a question in if you're on the panel. Hi, Andrey. That was really interesting. I think there's a little similarity there in that, Magic Draw is also this systems engineering tool that I'm using in a very elementary way to model something much more simple than it normally is. And I think you alluded to that. You said a lot of these CAD programs can be very difficult, but really, you don't need to use the full thing. You can just learn to use the part of it that you need and get really good results. So I was wondering, are there like tutorials or, in the software that you use, can you load like simple example projects that you can then crib off of to build, if you want to understand a feature, you don't have to teach yourself the whole software. You can just open a project that already exists and basically copy bits to do whatever functionality you want.
Yeah.
Is it, what's the learning curve, and are there, ways you can kind of teach yourself?
Yeah. So first of all, some of these companies that make this commercial software were around for a while. So there's a lot of there's a lot of community of users, and there's very open, and it's like the makers, like people who do Arduino, people who do 3D printing, they always like to share. So it's, I think, a very healthy ecosystem of people, really hobby people. So they are willing to share their knowledge, which I think is great. In practice, I would say that the learning curve, at least on this package, is fairly steep because it's fairly quickly to pick it up. I personally have spent few hours with two of my colleagues to help them and show them how it works and stuff like that, and they were able to kind of introduce them in their practice. So I think I was personally amazed how quickly that's kind of and intuitively it can be picked up. And yes, there is example projects that you can access through the interface and figure out what the authors made and try to copy or learn like that. Yeah. In general, I mean, part of the reason I'm doing this talk is to promote this as a really thing that's much easier than we used to think, and much more useful than I think people can usually think.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, actually, I agree. I did my undergrad in engineering, and we have a required class on how to design using CAD. I mean, it's a very effective tool, but sometimes it could be terrifying. Like people think about CAD and how to use that. So I think a talk like that is definitely necessary to promote people to use that. Don't be terrified by such kind of tool, which is very easy to hand on and effective to use. We have another quick question from the audience as well. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Any opinions on free CAD, which seems to be best option right now for Linux ecosystem?
I'll go back to my list and say that the file formats and licensing is a real issue, not being solved. Free CAD is one of those open source things that's probably going to be like a future. I didn't have a direct experience. We are trying to, we do communicate with different users and kind of share experience. I think it's how the future should look like. It's not there yet for like big projects. For small parts, I think it works perfectly fine. But it is a real issue of like this whole problem of everybody have their own file format and doesn't work on all the operational systems and so on. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay, thanks for the answer. Yeah. Okay, cool. I guess we're approaching 5:30, so let's